Yeah, thank you, Brian, and a warm welcome. So I was asked by the we.CONECT team to give a little bit a framing as a first session here, and it nicely fits to what Brian just said. So my name is Timo Flessner. I'm with Bayer, heading our global manufacturing activities, focusing on APIs, so the active pharmaceutical ingredient, and all forms of medical devices that we have. So it's a global function. Working as a senior VP in the Bayer leadership team, and I'm very happy to be here to give you some insights about what we currently think, what is important, how to deal with what Brian just mentioned. Yeah, there's a lot of changes going on in the world, and from our perspective, and I come to that, it's clearly having full transparency on your strategy, being flexible, having a workforce that is agile and flexible and can adapt. And it's artificial intelligence. That is something that is super crucial for being successful in the future, from our perspective. And I'd like to give you a little bit of a glimpse into what we are thinking. You might know the company Bayer. Health for all, hunger for none is our mission, and that's clearly what we stand for. So it's a company with 3 divisions: Pharma, Crop Science, and Consumer Health. So this is the non-prescription drugs. This is the drugs that you need, where you need a description for, and then it's the crop science business. So it's all about health for people in an aging and growing world with people. So there's a lot of things that are currently going on, and I will come to that. And at the same point in time, it's also about feeding people. And I want to mention this also because this sometimes goes a little bit down in recent conversations, in a sustainable way. So environmental sustainability, including providing raw materials out of nature. This is what crop science is doing. This is clearly what we strive for. Health for all, hunger for none. This is what it stands for. As Brian said, there's a lot going on in this world. When you look at the pharmaceutical supply chain, so active pharmaceutical ingredients, this is what you do in terms of the tariff discussions that we currently have with coming from the US. Those ingredients play a very important role. That's the significant piece for tariffs becoming applicable or not. So it's active pharmaceutical ingredients that actually the US government wants to be produced in the US. If you don't do this, you need to pay the tariffs. Then comes formulation, so everything linked to tablets or what kind of solutions that we provide, packaging, and then it basically goes out into the distribution to the patients. I mentioned the tariffs and trade policies already in the US. At the same point in time, we see for a couple of years quite some activities in China. Volume-based procurement is one of the statements, so there's quite some things going on that actually are quite a challenge, especially when you move into the generic world in terms of price competition and then also approvals in the various countries. Overall, there's a trend to move into local for local manufacturing and production, which is for a large pharmaceutical company not an easy thing to do. Especially when you talk about active pharmaceutical ingredients, this is a very, very costly, very large, it's chemical manufacturing, it's biological manufacturing. You can't do it in 50 countries of this world. So this is clearly not possible economically. So this is what we deal with. And the question is, how do we tackle this? What needs to be done to be as agile and flexible to actually adapt to this geopolitical development? In addition, very important, and this is just a rough picture. You see, basically, I talked about a growing population and an aging population. It very much depends on where you are in the world. When you look into the US, you see here the population, and you see here basically the pharmaceutical business. So in black, you see the current situation, and then the prediction into the future. You see, when you look into the US and Europe, for instance, it's basically stable population, so not really growing anymore. So it's aging population with a lot of topics relevant for the health industry. When you look into countries like, or regions, continents like Africa, India, with significantly growing populations. So a lot of young people moving into the population, different needs, and at the same point in time also aging and growing. That's what we have to deal with. You see very different developments. Also in China, pretty stable. You all hear this most likely from the press. Pretty stable, but at the same point in time, quite a significant projection into the growth of the health industry because of a lot of investments from the government, but also because of a developing organization and or population, and people getting insurances and so forth and being able to pay. Yeah? So it's a very diverse world that we are in. One message is, if you look into this, the US and China are super important countries when it comes to the health sector and the growth. This is where the money sits, and this is what we need to realize also in the light of what we just discussed. Yeah, very, very clearly seen. And then rest of world, it's a super diverse picture. You can imagine there's growing, there's stable countries, all kinds of things. So this is basically everything that is not linked to what you can see here. So quite a challenge. The world is diverse. So what are we doing at Bayer to tackle this? This is actually our concept that we rolled out some 2 years ago, a little bit more than 2 years ago. We call it dynamic shared ownership. So it's dynamic, it's shared, all of us together, and it's ownership. What does that mean? It's a nice word. Maybe I start here. The mission is always at the forefront. Health for all, hunger for none, and that is directly linked, as it should be, but especially in large companies, it's not always the case. It should be focused on the patient, the customer, and the product. So everything we do needs to have a benefit for either the patient or the product. And we're dealing with, in often cases, with ourselves, trying to improve our systems, blah, 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 a lot of things. You all know this. The larger company, the more you have these things. So it's all about clear focus, saying this is what we do, and this is clearly what we not do or not do now. And not only saying this, but living it. As you can see here in the middle, teams are built around the customer. So what we have done is we actually focus on very clear, fully responsible, fully accountable teams that focus on products and patients. And I will tell you on the next chart how we do this. Managers work not as the final decision makers, definitely not in the normal operational business. In terms of network strategy and so forth, leadership is important. And in terms of framing conditions, leadership is super important. It has to be even more rigid than it was in the past, at least in our company. But actually, managers act as coaches to support the teams, to really do everything that the teams have what they need, and don't struggle with things they don't want to and that don't have a benefit. Decisions need to be done where actually the work is being done, where the knowledge is, and not always in upper management. And then it's about speed. This 90-day thing, it sounds so easy, and you most likely have done something like that or have heard about it. So it's really about setting the frame quarter by quarter from the various product teams, and then really deliver on 90 days. Really do the review, really check what needs to be done, and then go forward, go forward, go forward. We live this now since 2 years roughly, and I can tell you this has a huge impact on how we work, on how we progress products, are getting more efficient also in terms of cost efficiency. So this is really something that has a huge impact, I can say. On this picture, I can show you a little bit how we do this. So we work actually in home and work areas. The work area, this is where the product teams sit. So we have a global product team for one product. Yeah? For us, you know, the aspirin is a very important one. Just think about an aspirin product team. That's a global product team. We have then in manufacturing or in product supply, we have the relevant people there. So they are driving a specific product team with full, and that is important, with full financial accountability, P&L accountability. That's not sitting somewhere in the management, it's sitting directly focusing on this product. That is the huge change. So this team here is driving the financial performance. They actually specify what is needed, and they drive their own business. And then functions like the one I'm heading our manufacturing cluster. These functions are basically the home. This is where the people are located. They report into us, but we work as service providers for the work teams. That's true for manufacturing, for quality, for engineering, for CMC and tax, so development activities. Basically, the work teams can pull resources from these functions. This is where the capabilities sit, where we develop people, where we really train people, where we ensure that we have the right capabilities, including AI, by the way. And then basically everything can be pulled by the team with a full focus on what they need, and trying to get the best outcomes for the products. And that's the real change. That's a complete change. It sounds so easy. It looks so easy. It's a complete change of how we work historically, I think, in many, many companies. Yeah, we know from many discussions. That's a huge change. At the same point in time, artificial intelligence is a key technology that supports us as in the capabilities and the relevant capabilities, and will drive further developments with very, very high speed. We are convinced, and I'm also by far not the expert of AI. I'm using it. I have moved into using it myself here and there. There's a lot of pros and cons. The one thing that I want to mention here is this thing is coming. It's already there, and it's coming, and it's growing with significant speed. I just talked last week to a group of chief information officers from large companies, and what they tell you is basically, they showed me this, and they said, guys, what do you think? How long will we have these? And the answer was, in 5 years, forget about this one. There might be some coming up, but there's new technologies coming. The iPhone is something that is almost gone in a couple of years. This is what people tell you, because other systems linked to watches, to glasses, to something you put into your ear, your rings, and so forth. There's a lot going on, and it will come. We might like it or not, but it will come. And you better be part of it, and you better train your people. That's the other thing that is very important, the other important message. Everyone who's working in a company, no matter if you are working in top management or if you're working on the shop floor, if you don't have a thorough understanding of what is going on and how you can actually benefit from artificial intelligence, your job will be gone. And you will not have a job in 5 years, 8 years, 10 years. It will come. So that is a very important message, and I'd like to give you just something that we do. We do a lot of things currently in the company, and these are just some examples. So the one thing in manufacturing is troubleshooting. You all know, or you can imagine, in pharmaceutical manufacturing, there's a lot of complexity when you think about chemical manufacturing for small molecule APIs. When you look into the various formulation formats, it's highly qualified, highly regulated, highly specified. So you need to ensure the outcome is always the same. Pretty complex, and there's a lot of troubleshooting activities. We have sites, or let's say technologies, where we have up to 10% of basically garbage out of a yearly production area, although we work at pretty high levels. So it's significant. Understanding the troubleshooting is critical, and at the same point in time, it's very, very challenging for human beings just to check the numbers. I can tell you one example of a production area where we produced the same product for more than 40 years. So you can imagine it's 100 people group, they know what they're doing, yeah? Nothing else than just one product, high volume, every day. We brought in artificial intelligence to ensure that they get a better understanding or make use of the data that they generate anyhow, and get a better prediction of potential troubles that are coming up. These guys have increased the output, the yield for the API by 7% after 40 years of production. In other years, if we reached 0.1, 0.3% of an increase, that was significant. 7% in less than 6 months by using artificial intelligence, making use of the data that you produce anyhow. Human beings cannot collect all the things. Artificial intelligence is telling you where the problem could come in a predictive way. Capacity planning, very important, especially in the current supply chain scenarios that we have. Local for local, tariffs, raw materials are coming. You know, in pharma, many of the raw materials, more than 80% are coming out of India and China for very good reasons. At the same point in time, we are seeing, because of geopolitical tensions, quite some disruptions here and there. So capacity planning and being flexible, understanding your scenarios, your supply chain scenarios better, is critical to ensure that you have the products for the patients at the right point in time. So it's all about, it's basically everything. You see some buzzwording there. Machine utilization is something. So what do I do where? How do I make best use of my machine cost and staffing and scheduling and so forth. The other piece, it sounds so easy, GMP, good manufacturing practice, you all know this, highly regulated world. No one really likes it. It has to be done. GMP documentation is something that is holding us back. We just talked about this in the little introduction. When we want to make changes like the ones we have to do now, this is often holding us back because the GMP regulations are so strict. They're linked to approved products, to regulatory, to all kinds of things, to your basically translations into standard operating procedures at the sites, at the plants, in the groups. So it's nothing that you can easily change. At the same point in time, we have to do this. So I can tell you about some of our larger sites where we produce APIs. You have standard operating procedures, these kind of documents, 2,000 plus per site. So this is just huge. No one can overlook what is in there. Yeah. So we are making use of artificial intelligence to, first of all, setting us up fully compliant. That's important. And at the same point in time, much more efficient than we are currently. Because all these documents, you can imagine, they need reviews, they need to be tracked, they need to be linked together. We have groups that are fully dedicated working on SOPs. Just one example. And there's a lot more where we need to make use of the existing technology that is there to help us and to support us. So in a nutshell, and that's what I wanted to give the frame for today's session here, it's about ensuring an agile operating system. So agility and flexibility is key to be successful in the future. And that sounds so easy. It is not. When you're talking about a manufacturing network, you have your own facilities, you're working with partners, you have long-term contracts. You cannot easily adapt. At the same point in time, we have to. When you think about the tariff discussion, I can tell you this, when I talk to my peers, everyone is thinking about how can we bring API manufacturing to the US? Because the API manufacturing network in the US across all companies is like this. Almost no one has some. There's a little bit of biologics, small molecules, very rarely. There's a few CMOs compared to Europe, to Asia, almost nothing. So if the tariff discussions come and we're talking about huge numbers and huge impact, this is something where we have to deal with. So how do you do this? If you want to invest, it takes 5 years plus to get it. How can we do this as an industry, as single companies? But I think personally, really, what can we do as an industry to tackle these challenges? How can we also, on a non-competitive way, work together to drive the agile operating system? In the middle, very important, linked to that, it's about, in the company, full transparency about the strategy, setting the clear framing, scenario-based strategy, and then, Brian, I need to emphasize this again, it's about artificial intelligence and relevant technologies. It's there, it's coming, let's not ignore it, let's make use of it. Always taking into account the risks. There are risks behind this, that's absolutely clear. I can only encourage all of us to prioritize this, to put it to the very top of the list, to create an understanding on what is possible and what is going on in the world. This is crucial. It is really something that is breaking our industry into a next phase. In the end, it's also said so easy, it will not come without mistakes. We have to make mistakes. We need to come, and we at Bayer, I can tell this, we are we are the perfect company, trying to do everything perfect. And that links to having so many interactions with ourselves, not really benefiting products and patients. So let's be fast. Let's focus on what the real priority is. Let's not do everything perfect. Go with 80-20 or 70-30 or something like this. Just go. And after 90 days, review if you're on the right path and see if you need to adapt. There will be failures. You will have to adapt much more often than we did in the past, but we have to be faster. We cannot use 2 years to decide if we want to invest in the US, to take that example. We have to do something much, much faster, and it's linked to all the supply chain topics that we are talking about here. So with that, I hope I could give you a little bit of a frame in time, and thank you very much. And now I'm giving it back to Brian. I think we have a couple of minutes for discussion. Thank you.